The unexpected alliance. The vast expanse of space surrounding the Zephyrian homeworld crackled with energy as hundreds of ships engaged in a fierce battle. Plasma torpedoes and laser beams crisscrossed the inky void, illuminating the darkness with brief flashes of destructive power. The Zephyrian defense fleet, once proud and seemingly invincible, now hung in tatters, barely holding the line against the relentless Kronan assault. Admiral Zara Venn, Supreme Commander of the Zephyrian forces, gripped the edge of her command console, her silver skin glistening with nervous perspiration. Her large, luminous eyes darted between holographic displays, each one painting a grimmer picture than the last. Shields failing, weapons depleted, and casualties mounting, the situation was dire. Status report. Zara barked, her normally melodious voice strained with tension. Her second-in-command, a battle-hardened veteran named Kel, responded grimly. "Admiral, we've lost another cruiser squadron in Sector 7. The Kronan battleships are breaking through our defensive line. At this rate, they'll reach the planet within 2 planetary rotations." Zara closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself a moment of despair. The Zephyrians, a peaceful race of artists, scientists, and philosophers, had never imagined they would face such brutal aggression. The Kronan Empire, a warmongering civilization from the outer reaches of the galaxy, had appeared without warning, their massive fleet decimating Zephyrian outposts one by one. "We can't give up," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There must be something we haven't tried, some strategy we've overlooked." As if in answer to her desperate plea, a young communications officer called out, excitement evident in his voice. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from an unknown source. It's not using any frequency you recognize." Zara's head snapped up, hope flickering in her eyes. "Put it through," she commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a face unlike any the Zephyrians had ever seen. The being had pinkish-brown skin, a prominent nose, and a mop of dark hair atop its head. Its eyes, a striking blue, seemed to sparkle with intelligence and determination. "Greetings, people of Zephyria," the strange being said, its voice surprisingly warm and reassuring. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Alliance starship Odyssey. We've been monitoring your situation, and we're here to offer our assistance." A collective gasp rippled through the bridge. Humans, the Zephyrians had heard whispers of this species, newcomers to the galactic stage, but had never encountered them directly. Zara stepped forward, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and caution. "Captain Rodriguez, your offer is most unexpected. We are grateful, but why would you risk yourselves for us? You owe us no allegiance." Elena's expression softened. "Because it's the right thing to do, Admiral. We humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good beings to do nothing. We won't stand idly by while your people suffer." As if to punctuate her words, a massive ship dropped out of hyperspace near the Zephyrian fleet. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, sleek, angular, and bristling with weaponry that seemed far beyond their own technology. "That's the Odyssey," Elena explained, a hint of pride in her voice. "She's the flagship of our expeditionary fleet. We have more ships on the way, but we didn't want to wait. Every second counts in a battle like this." Zara felt a surge of emotions, relief, gratitude, and a spark of hope she had thought long extinguished. "Thank you, Captain," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We accept your offer of assistance. What do you propose?" Elena's face grew serious. "First, we need to stabilize your defensive line. The Odyssey will move to reinforce your weakest point. Meanwhile, I'd like to coordinate our strategies. We humans have quite a bit of experience in warfare, unfortunately. I think you'll find our tactics unconventional." Over the next few hours, the tide of battle began to shift. The Odyssey moved with surprising agility for a ship of its size, its advanced shields shrugging off Kronan attacks that would have vaporized Zephyrian vessels. Its return fire was devastating, each shot finding its mark with unerring accuracy. But it wasn't just the Odyssey's firepower that turned the tide. Under Elena's guidance, the remaining Zephyrian ships adopted new formations and tactics. They used the debris of destroyed ships as cover, executed complex maneuvers that confused Kronan targeting systems, and coordinated their attacks in ways the enemy couldn't predict. As the battle raged on, more Earth Alliance ships arrived, each one bringing fresh hope to the beleaguered Zephyrians. The Kronan advance slowed, then stopped, and finally began to reverse. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Zara watched in awe as a squadron of small, agile Earth fighters wove through the enemy fleet, causing chaos and confusion. "Remarkable," she murmured. "I've never seen such piloting skills." Kale, who had been coordinating with the human tacticians, nodded in agreement. Their technology is impressive, but it's their adaptability that truly sets them apart. They think in ways we never considered. As the battle entered its final stages, Zara received a transmission from Elena. The human captain's face was streaked with soot, and a small cut above her eye oozed blood, but her eyes shone with fierce determination. "Admiral Venn," Elena said, "we've got the Kronans on the run, but their flagship is making a last-ditch effort to break through to Zephyria. We need to stop them here and now. I have a plan, but it's risky. Are you with me?" Zara didn't hesitate. "After all you've done for us." "Always, Captain. What do you need?" Elena outlined her strategy, a bold, almost reckless plan that would have been unthinkable to the traditionally cautious Zephyrians. But after witnessing the humans in action, Zara found herself embracing their audacious approach. The plan worked beautifully. In a coordinated assault that combined Zephyrian energy weapons with Earth Alliance missiles and fighter support, they trapped the Kronan flagship in a deadly crossfire. The massive enemy vessel, once the terror of the Zephyrian people, erupted in a spectacular explosion that signaled the end of the invasion. As the remaining Kronan ships fled in disarray, cheers erupted across the Zephyrian fleet. On the flagship's bridge, Zara allowed herself a moment of pure joy, embracing Kale in an uncharacteristic display of emotion. When she regained her composure, Zara opened a channel to the Odyssey. "Captain Rodriguez," she said, her voice filled with gratitude, "I don't know how to thank you. You've saved not just our lives, but our entire civilization." Elena smiled warmly. "There's no need for thanks, Admiral. This is what allies do for each other. And I hope this is just the beginning of a long and fruitful relationship between our peoples." Zara nodded, her mind already racing with the possibilities. "Indeed, Captain. I believe this day marks the dawn of a new era for both our species. There is much we can learn from each other." As the adrenaline of battle faded, replaced by the sobering reality of reconstruction, Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement for the future. The humans had brought more than just military might. They had brought new ideas, new perspectives, and a spirit of adventure that would forever change Zephyrian society. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as the combined fleet of Zephyrian and Earth Alliance ships moved into formation around the planet. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, forged in the crucible of battle and sealed with the promise of friendship between two very different, yet surprisingly compatible, civilizations. The days following the initial Kronan retreat were a flurry of activity. The space around Zephyria buzzed with ships from both civilizations, working tirelessly to fortify the planet's defenses and repair the damage from the invasion attempt. On the surface, human engineers and scientists worked alongside their Zephyrian counterparts, integrating Earth Alliance technology with the planet's existing infrastructure. Admiral Zara Venn stood before a holographic display of the Zephyrian system, her silver skin reflecting the soft blue glow. Beside her, Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Alliance studied the tactical readouts, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The Kronans won't stay away for long," Elena said, her voice grim. "They suffered a setback, but they're not the type to give up easily. We need to be ready for when they return, and they will return with greater numbers and more firepower." Zara nodded, her luminous eyes scanning the display. Agreed, but thanks to your people, we're in a much stronger position now. Our combined fleets, the new defensive grid, we stand a fighting chance. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the command center. A young Zephyrian officer called out, his voice tight with tension. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. It's the Cronin fleet, and it's at least twice the size of the previous invasion force. Elena's hand instinctively went to the phaser at her hip. Looks like they didn't waste any time. Admiral, are your people ready? Zara straightened, her voice steady as she issued orders. All ships, battle stations, activate the planetary shield. This is not a drill. May the stars guide us all. The scene in space quickly devolved into chaos as the massive Cronin armada dropped out of hyperspace. Their ships, dark and angular, bristled with weapon emplacements. At their center loomed a vessel of truly staggering proportions, a new flagship that dwarfed even the largest Earth Alliance cruiser. The combined Zephyrian human fleet moved to intercept, their formations a testament to the intensive training and coordination of the past few days. Earth Alliance battleships formed the vanguard, their advanced shields absorbing the initial barrage of Cronin fire. Zephyrian vessels, newly outfitted with human weapons technology, darted between the larger ships, striking at vulnerable points in the enemy formation. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Elena barked orders as her crew worked with practiced efficiency. Concentrate fire on their lead ships. Don't let them establish a beachhead. The space around Zephyria lit up with weapons fire, a dazzling and deadly light show. Cronin ships exploded in brilliant flashes, but for each one destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The sheer numbers of the enemy fleet were overwhelming. Back in the planetary command center, Zara received a transmission from Kale, who was leading a squadron of fighters. His holographic image flickered as static interfered with the signal. Admiral, we can't hold them back much longer. Their new flagship, it's got some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before. It's cutting through our ships like they're made of paper. Zara's mind raced, searching for a solution. She turned to Elena, who was coordinating the battle from a secondary command station. Captain, we need a game changer. Any ideas? Elena's eyes lit up with a dangerous gleam. Actually, yes, but it's risky, possibly suicidal. We'll need a small team to infiltrate that flagship and take out its main weapon from the inside. Infiltrate? How? Zara asked, incredulous. Their shields are impenetrable. Elena grinned, the expression somehow both reassuring and slightly unnerving. Not quite. We've been analyzing their shield frequency. There's a small fluctuation every time they fire that main weapon. It's barely a second, but it might be enough for a cloaked shuttle to slip through. Zara hesitated for a moment, then nodded decisively. Do it, but I'm coming with you. Elena looked surprised. Admiral, with all due respect. This is my planet, my people, Zara interrupted. I won't ask anyone to take a risk I'm not willing to take myself. Besides, you'll need someone who can interface with Cronin technology. Minutes later, a sleek, black shuttle slipped out of the Odyssey's hangar bay. Its advanced cloaking technology, a closely guarded Earth Alliance secret, rendered it virtually invisible to both sensors and the naked eye. Inside, Elena piloted the craft with expert precision while Zara monitored the enemy ship's shield status. Almost there, Elena muttered, her hands dancing over the controls. Get ready, now. With split-second timing, Elena drove the shuttle through the momentary gap in the Cronin flagship's shields. They found themselves in a massive hangar bay, surrounded by enemy fighters and combat drones. Quick, over there! Zara pointed to a maintenance accessway. The two leaders sprinted across the hangar floor, narrowly avoiding detection by Cronin patrols. As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the enemy ship, Zara marveled at Elena's adaptability. The human moved with a fluid grace, equally comfortable in the microgravity of space as she was in terrestrial environments. Together, they formed an effective team, with Zora's knowledge of Kronan systems complementing Elena's tactical expertise. They finally reached the flagship's main weapon control room, a cavernous chamber dominated by a pulsing energy core. Kronan technicians scurried about, making adjustments and monitoring readouts. "There," Zora whispered, pointing to a central control panel. "If we can overload the main power coupling, it should cascade through the entire weapon system." Elena nodded, then pulled out a small device from her utility belt. "Shaped charge. It'll do the job. But we'll have about 2 minutes to get out of here before this whole section blows." With practiced ease, Elena set the charge while Zora kept watch. Just as they were about to make their escape, a harsh voice rang out. "Intruders, stop them." A group of Kronan soldiers charged into the room, energy weapons blazing. Elena and Zora dove for cover, returning fire with their own weapons. The firefight was intense but brief. The two leaders worked in perfect synchronization, covering each other and picking off the enemy with precision shots. "Time to go," Elena shouted as the charge began its countdown. They ran full tilt back to the hangar bay, alarms blaring all around them. They reached the shuttle with seconds to spare, Elena's piloting skills once again proving invaluable as she navigated them out through another shield fluctuation. The explosion, when it came, was spectacular. The Kronan flagship's main weapon erupted in a chain reaction of secondary explosions, leaving the massive ship crippled and vulnerable. As Elena and Zora returned to the Odyssey, the tide of battle had decisively turned. Without their superweapon, the Kronan fleet lost its main advantage. The combined Cypherian human forces pressed their attack, methodically dismantling the invasion force. Hours later, as the last Kronan ship retreated into hyperspace, shears erupted throughout the Allied fleet. On the Odyssey's bridge, Elena turned to hours later. As the last Kronan ship retreated into hyperspace, shears erupted throughout the Allied fleet. On the Odyssey's bridge, Elena turned to Zora, a weary but triumphant smile on her face. "We did it, Admiral. Cypheria is safe." Zora nodded, her own expression a mixture of relief and disbelief. "Thanks to you and your people, Captain. I don't think we'll ever be able to repay this debt." Elena shook her head. "There's no debt between friends, Admiral. But I think this battle has shown us something important. We're stronger together than we ever could be apart." As the adrenaline of battle faded, the true cost of the conflict became apparent. Both Cypherian and human ships had suffered heavy losses. The space around the planet was littered with debris, a somber reminder of the lives lost in defense of Cypheria. In the days that followed, memorial services were held, honoring the fallen from both species. It was a time of mourning, but also of growing understanding between the two races. Humans and Cypherians worked side by side in recovery efforts, forging bonds that transcended their physiological differences. 1 week after the battle, Zora and Elena stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Cypherian capital. Before them, a joint session of the Cypherian High Council and representatives from the Earth Alliance had gathered to discuss the future. Zora stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Esteemed colleagues, honored guests, we stand at a crossroads in our history. The Kronan threat has been repelled, but not eliminated. We must assume they will return, perhaps with even greater forces." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Elena took her cue to speak next. "The Earth Alliance came to your aid because we believed it was the right thing to do. But in doing so, we've discovered something remarkable, a kindred spirit in the Cypherian people. Our strengths complement each other, our weaknesses balanced by the other's capabilities." A senior member of the Cypherian Council, his age evident in the faded silver of his skin, spoke up. "What are you proposing, Captain Rodriguez?" Elena and Zora exchanged a glance, then Elena continued. "We propose a formal alliance between our peoples, not just for mutual defense, but for cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and joint exploration of the galaxy. Together, we can forge a future brighter than either of us could achieve alone." The assembly erupted in discussion, with counselors and representatives debating the merits and potential risks of such an unprecedented alliance. As the debate raged on, Zara leaned close to Elena, speaking in a low voice. "Do you think they'll agree?" Elena watched the proceedings with a thoughtful expression. "I hope so. But even if they don't, I think the seeds have been planted. Our peoples have seen what we can accomplish together. That's not something easily forgotten." As if to punctuate her words, a young Zephyrian scientist stood up, her voice ringing out clear and passionate. "Look at what we've already achieved. The integration of human shield technology with our energy distribution systems has increased efficiency by 300%, and that's just the beginning. Imagine what we could do with years of cooperation, not just days." Her words seemed to sway many of the undecided. One by one, more voices joined in support of the alliance. Even those who had initial reservations began to see the potential benefits outweighing the risks. As the session drew to a close, a consensus emerged. The alliance would move forward, with committees established to iron out the details of this unprecedented interspecies cooperation. Later, as Zara and Elena stood on a balcony overlooking the Zephyrian capital, the twin suns setting in a spectacular display of color, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection. "You know," Elena said, breaking the comfortable silence, "when I joined the Earth Alliance, I never imagined anything like this. We thought we were alone in the universe for so long. And now, not only have we met other intelligent life, but we're forging bonds that could reshape the galaxy." Zara nodded, her luminous eyes fixed on the horizon. "It's a new era for both our peoples. There will be challenges ahead, misunderstandings to overcome, but I believe we're on the right path." Elena smiled, a hint of mischief in her expression. "Well, if the Cronans do come back, they're in for one hell of a surprise. I almost feel sorry for them. Almost." Zara laughed, the sound like chiming bells. "Indeed, but let us hope that our alliance serves as a deterrent, that the promise of peace proves stronger than the lure of conquest." As night fell on Zephyria, lights began to twinkle in the city below. In orbit, the combined fleet of Zephyrian and human ships stood watch, a visible symbol of the new alliance. And far beyond, in the depths of space, news of this partnership began to spread, sending ripples through the cosmic sea of galactic politics. The battle for Zephyria was over, but a new chapter in history was just beginning. The humans and Zephyrians faced an uncertain future, filled with both promise and peril. But they would face it together, two species united by shared values and a common vision of a better tomorrow. As Elena and Zara turned to head back inside, ready to tackle the myriad tasks that lay ahead, both felt a sense of optimism they hadn't experienced in years. Whatever challenges the universe might throw at them, they were no longer alone. And in that simple fact lay the greatest victory of all: triumph and aftermath. 5 years had passed since the historic alliance between the Zephyrians and humans was formalized. In that time, the partnership had flourished beyond even the most optimistic predictions. The combined scientific and technological prowess of both species had led to advancements that would have been impossible for either race alone. On the 5th anniversary of the Battle for Zephyria, a grand celebration was planned. Representatives from both worlds gathered in the newly constructed Unity Station, a massive space habitat that orbited Zephyria, serving as a neutral ground for ongoing collaboration and diplomacy. Admiral Zara Venn, now serving as the Zephyrian ambassador to Earth, stood before a window that offered a breathtaking view of her home planet. Beside her, Elena Rodriguez, promoted to admiral after her heroics in the battle, gazed out at the stars. "It's hard to believe how far we've come," Zara mused, her silver skin shimmering in the starlight. 5 years ago, we were on the brink of annihilation. Now, we're at the forefront of a galactic renaissance." Elena nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "It's been quite a journey. But I have a feeling it's only the beginning." Their reflective moment was interrupted by a young human ensign who approached with urgent news. "Admirals, we're receiving a priority transmission from the outer defense perimeter. You'll want to see this." They hurried to the station's command center, where a holographic display showed a massive fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Zora's breath caught in her throat. "Cronins," she whispered. But Elena's reaction was different. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the display. "Wait a minute. Those aren't Cronin ships. At least, not all of them. Computer, magnify Sector 7. The image zoomed in, revealing a mix of vessels. Some were indeed the dark, angular ships of the Cronin Empire, but interspersed among them were ships of various designs, many of which neither Zora nor Elena recognized. "It's a coalition," Elena realized, her voice filled with awe. "The Cronins, yes, but also, it looks like they've brought allies, all subjects." Zora's mind raced. They must have spent the last 5 years consolidating their power, forcing other races to join them. This isn't just an invasion, it's a bid for galactic domination. Alarms blared throughout Unity Station as the alert level was raised to maximum. Within minutes, the combined Zephyrian human fleet began to mobilize, ships of both designs moving into defensive formations with practiced ease. Elena turned to Zora, her expression grim but determined. "We knew this day might come. Are you ready for round 2, old friend?" Zora nodded, her own face set with resolve. "Always. Let's show them what our alliance can really do." The battle that followed would later be known as the Clash of Civilizations. The Cronin coalition, vastly outnumbering the defenders, pressed their attack with brutal efficiency. But the Zephyrian human alliance had not been idle in the intervening years. New technologies, born from the fusion of both species' scientific knowledge, came into play. Quantum entangled communication systems allowed for instantaneous coordination across the battlefield. Adaptive shield harmonics, developed by a joint research team, proved highly effective against the varied weapon types of the invading force. On the bridge of the flagship Harmony, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human Zephyrian engineering, Elena and Zora directed the defense. Their years of friendship and shared experiences had honed them into an incredibly effective command team. Zephyrian cruisers Starfire and Lumina reinforce the left flank, Zora ordered. Human battle groups Theta and Omega execute flanking maneuver Beta 7. Elena added, "All ships, initiate sunburst protocol on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." At her command, every ship in the Allied fleet simultaneously activated a new weapon system. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out, connecting ship to ship in a complex web. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a flash that momentarily outshone the system's star, a massive energy wave erupted from the center of the formation. The wave washed over the Cronin coalition fleet, shorting out systems and overloading shield generators. Dozens of enemy ships went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Direct hit," a tactical officer called out. Enemy fleet's combat effectiveness reduced by 40%. Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Now's our chance. All ships, press the attack. Concentrate fire on their command vessels." The tide of battle had shifted, but the Cronins were far from defeated. Their flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even Unity Station, pushed through the carnage, its weapons blazing. Smaller ships were vaporized in its path as it made a direct line for Zephyria. "They're going to attempt a planetary strike," Zora realized with horror. "If that ship breaches the atmosphere..." Elena's mind raced through options before settling on a daring plan. "We need to take out that flagship, and I think I know how. But it's going to take both of us, just like old times." As Elena outlined her plan, Zora's eyes widened. "That's insane," she said, then grinned. "I love it." Minutes later, a small, sleek vessel detached from the Harmony. Built for speed and stealth, it carried a payload that could turn the tide of the entire war. At its controls sat Elena and Zora, the fate of 2 civilizations resting on their shoulders. They weaved through the chaotic battlefield, dodging energy beams and debris. As they approached the Cronin flagship, its immense bulk filling their view screen, Elena's hands danced over the controls. Initiating phase shift, now. The ship's experimental phase drive activated, briefly shifting them into another dimension. They passed through the flagship's shields as if they weren't there, rematerializing inside the massive vessel's hangar bay. Alarms blared as Cronin crews reacted to the intruder, but Elena and Zara were already moving. They sprinted through corridors, fighting their way to the ship's central power core. Time was of the essence. The phase shift had drained their ship's energy reserves, leaving them with no way out except success. They reached the core, a massive chamber pulsing with barely contained energy. Zara interfaced with a control panel, had intimate knowledge of Cronin's systems, allowing her to bypass security protocols. Meanwhile, Elena set to work, attaching devices to key points around the room. "Quantum destabilizers in place," Elena reported. "Ready when you are." Zara's fingers flew over the alien controls. "Overriding safety protocols. Redirecting power flow. We've got 2 minutes before this place goes critical." They ran back to their ship, Cronin's security forces hot on their heels. With seconds to spare, they launched out of the hangar, streaking away from the flagship. Behind them, the massive vessel began to convulse as its power core destabilized. The explosion, when it came, was unlike anything either of them had ever seen. The Cronin flagship seemed to implode, collapsing in on itself before erupting in a blast that momentarily outshone the system's sun. The shockwave rippled out, catching many of the surrounding Cronin ships in its destructive embrace. As Elena and Zara's ship docked with the Harmony, the remnants of the Cronin coalition fleet began to retreat. Without their flagship, and with their forces in disarray, they had no choice but to abandon their invasion plans. In the days that followed, the true scale of their victory became apparent. Not only had they repelled the invasion, but they had also broken the back of the Cronin Empire's power. Reports came in from across the sector of subjugated worlds, throwing off their Cronin oppressors. A month after the battle, Elena and Zara once again stood in Unity Station, this time before a gathering of representatives from dozens of worlds. Many were former victims of Cronin aggression, others were neutral powers impressed by the Zephyrian-Human Alliance's victory. Zara stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Today, we stand at a crossroads. We have seen the devastation that comes from aggression and the strength that comes from unity. We propose a new galactic order, one based on mutual respect, cooperation, and the free exchange of ideas." Elena joined her, continuing the speech they had carefully prepared together. "The alliance between humans and Zephyrians was just the beginning. We invite all of you to join us in creating something greater, a galactic confederation that will ensure peace and prosperity for all its members." The response was overwhelming. One by one, representatives stepped forward to pledge their support. As the session continued, the framework for a new interstellar government began to take shape. Later, as Elena and Zara watched ships from a dozen different species dock with Unity Station, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet pride. "You know," Elena said, "when I was a little girl dreaming of the stars, I never imagined anything like this." Zara nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting the starlight. "Nor did I. But I believe we've built something that will outlast us both, a legacy of peace and unity that will echo through the ages." As they turned to rejoin the ongoing negotiations, both felt a profound sense of hope for the future. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges to overcome, prejudices to dismantle, and wounds to heal. But they had laid the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation. The triumph over the Cronin invasion had been just the beginning. The true victory lay in what came after, a future where the combined strengths of many species would reach for the stars together, bound by a shared vision of a better tomorrow for all.